Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Respected viewers and dearest friends, Assalamu alaikum, and this is a very good morning and good afternoon and good evening according to the situation, according to the place you live in. Thank you very much. You are with us in a number of different sessions. In today's session, in this particular video, we are going to talk about you can say task-related personality traits of leaders. We have different, you can say, very important personality of leaders. The first one is the courage. If you can recall, in the previous video, we emphasized on a very important point, that is core self-evaluation, as well as you can say the person should be very much assertive and the person should have some self-confidence. This courage is very much important. For example, if you believe that you have certain tasks, definitely a number of points they are going to roaming around in your brain, and the number of points actually in your brain, and you are not have this courage to share these ideas in a board meeting or in front of your seniors or juniors. Definitely the idea will remain intact in your brain. It will not be communicated to others. Or by the passage of time, you might have observed that these ideas are extremely important for the organization, or specifically for your own small functional area of business units. So it is very, very important to work upon developing the courage. Now, next question arises: under what circumstances people are not in a position to demonstrate their courage? A very, very important point, if you can recall and connect this presentation with the previous video in which we talk about core self-evaluation. When the people are not, especially people, I'm referring to the leadership part. So if the leaders, they are not in a position to understand what are the basic mistakes they have committed earlier, and they are not going to evaluate. In fact, in order to evaluate or self-criticize involves a higher degree of courage. So if you do not have this courage to self-appraise yourself, it is very, very difficult to identify different mistakes for you to rectify on. So it is very, very important. So from organizational context, when we talk about the courage, it is very, very important to share your ideas, similarly to convince others, and similarly if you would like to convince others, it is very, very important to make them understand. When you are going to make them understand, you must need to provide them plausible justification for that. If you're going to simply say that these are my ideas and we need to work upon it, it will not work. In most of the situation, when you have a high degree of, or you can say a large number of professionals in your team, if you're going to simply say that this is my idea and I'm the leader and we need to work upon it, so it will not work. Why is that so? Because everybody might have their own ideas, or some, in most of the situation, their ideas might be better than yours. So in that particular situation, you need to have this courage to first listen to others too, so that they are going to come across with their ideas, they are going to bring forward their own ideas, and as a result, you need to compare and contrast which idea is very much suitable for the organization context. Especially at that particular point in time, we come across another concept in business administration, especially in the concept of organization theory and design, that is divergent interest. I repeat, that is divergent interest. Which interest, or whose interest we are talking about? Actually, there are two types of interest. One interest of the organization, and the another interest of the decision makers, maybe managers or maybe the leadership or the leaders. So which specific type of interest will be implemented? Of course, yes, you are absolutely right. The common point between the leaders' interest or the managers or decision makers' interest as well as the organizational interest. Let me give you a very simple example for that. For instance, your organization would like to, you can say, implement a new SAP system. Previously, they used to have a number of disintegrated small legacy systems, and now the top management, they have decided to implement one organization-wide big systems such as SAP or Oracle Financial, or in the past we used to have JD Edwards or PeopleSoft, and so on and so forth. So who decided this thing? The top management. Do you think the top management will be there to implement the system? No, they are going to explain these things to down the hierarchy. And they do not have courage to explain these things. So do you think this idea is going to work? No. Why is that so? Despite the fact you have sufficient amount of funds available with you, it is not only the one thing. Because when you are going to implement your SAP system, after implementation, for example, before implementation, the cost is $1. When you are going to get it implemented and people, especially end users, they are going to start using the system, the total cost will be 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, in total 4. Why is that so? These are the implementation costs, these are the user understanding costs, and definitely you need to align your existing business with the established portfolio or established mechanism, algorithms in particular, with the SAP system. Unless and until we are not in a good position or we do not have a good strategic fit. Remember the sign I used? The good strategic fit between the organizational practices, current practices, with the SAP practices, how this is possible to get it in line and start working effectively and efficiently. So at this very important point in time, this is extremely important for the managers or decision makers in particular. They should have this courage to explain their ideas, to convince others, and above all, a number of times I use this word, and senior students especially, they also understand that the good decision maker, they should also be very much highly receptive. Highly receptive means they should be in a courage. They should have courage, or they should be in a good position to listen to others. If you are not going to listen to others, definitely you are going to only communicate your own ideas to others. So it means that when 1 or 1 equals to 11, so then what is the idea of value proposition? Normally we talk about in strategic level courses. So it is very, very important to have this courage to listen to others. You need to have a good courage to make others understand. So these are very much task oriented, or you can say task related or task centric personality traits of leadership or decision makers. Passion we talked about earlier, but we slightly touched upon. Now we talk about in a slightly much greater detail. The passion. Passion means a kind of courage. Okay? For example, you would like to get it implemented, a new system in your organization. If you do not have passion, definitely it will communicate a negative message to your junior managers or decision makers in their respective departments that the leadership, although they have decided to work upon something, but they are not passionate about that. So as a result, when they are going to observe that the management is not passionate enough, definitely they are not going to exhibit majority of their efforts, of their, you can say, man hours during their work times, so that they are going to work accordingly. So being passionate is very, very important for the leaders, so that they are going to, you can relate this being passionate characteristics, that is job related or task related characteristics, with the characteristics we discussed earlier in the previous video, that was being assertiveness. So when you would like to assert something, definitely it will also reflect that you are going to demonstrate somebody that you are very much passionate and you would like to, you are very much serious to get it implemented in the organization context. Similarly, being proactive personality is very important. What do you mean by proactive? Two things, very simple. Something happened, something went wrong, and then you start thinking. This is reactive nature. Proactive means preemptive thinking. Well before the time you are going to start thinking this, if the current situation prevails for a longer period of time, what could go wrong? And remember, in the previous video we talked about the Murphy law, that if you believe something could go wrong, it will surely go wrong. So you need to anticipate well in advance that although at the moment we are observing good, or you can say double-digit profits, for example, in organization context, or for example, if are purely a service business, so customer clients, we have a very high rate of, at least you can say, sustainable rate of customer clients or repeat customers. It's okay for the current period of time. But do you think if you are going to behave in the same fashion and suddenly some unforecasted or unforeseen circumstances takes place, such as pandemic or COVID-19, so do you think you are going to observe the similar double-digit profit afterwards? The answer is no. So you need to anticipate. At the moment seems fine, but if you are going to work accordingly in the same fashion for a longer period of time, are you going to observe the same things? Yes or no? So this is the core responsibility, or normally is considered as the inbuilt personality, task-oriented inbuilt personality of the leaders, to preempt well before in advance so that they could forecast or foresee what could go wrong if they are going to perform in the same direction, on the same conduits. Okay, the last on our list, that is the second last on our list, that is the flexibility and adaptability. This is again very important for an effective leader. For example, if you have decided something, but you are not you have not communicated your decision to your junior managers or departmental heads. But when you are going to get it discussed in your board meeting or in the departmental meeting, and your juniors managers, they are going to you can say float a good ideas, you feel that your idea is not better than that idea that is shared or communicated by your junior managers or departmental head. So you need to be very much flexible enough to understand those ideas. Again and again, I would like to emphasize that the leader should be very much highly receptive. If they are not going to receive those ideas willfully with open hearts, definitely it will be more towards the disadvantage for the organization. Again, we talked about the divergent interest. Your interest, your refers to the decision maker interest as well as the organization interest. You should be having a good balance and good strategic fit between the two. And of course, if you are not rigid, it means you are flexible. And when you are flexible, definitely you are going to adapt certain things. So whenever we do the word that is adopt or adapt, there are a slight difference between adopt means as it is, or adapt means you copied something and you contextualize according to the environment in you operate. In the previous video, we also talked about in a greater detail, what do we mean by a good and effective strategy? It is not that you have developed a very good vision. It does not mean that you have strategized a very good business model. The main point is that you need to identify very willfully, this is again very important, with open heart, you need to identify the strategy that you are going to develop or formulate, or the right word is craft, C-R-A-F-T. It must be aligned with the available resources of your organization. Considering your SWOT analysis, considering your TOS framework, considering your bargaining power of buyers, considering your bargaining power of suppliers, considering the degree of rivalry you might have, or monopolistic, still you may have a number of potential entrants perhaps, or the potential threats from your substitutes companies or substitute products. These are all equally important in order to analyze the industry attractiveness. So unless and until the leadership or the decision makers, they are not adaptive, they are not flexible enough to understand these things, definitely it will become very difficult to ensure the organizational effectiveness for a longer period of time. Last, very, very important, or you can say extremely important for a leader, that they should have emotional stability or emotional intelligence, EQ in short, emotional quotient. What is that? It's very simple. It's a combination of, you can say, 4 or 5 different things. For example, if you can see, this is the self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and managing relationship. This is very, very important. And whenever we talk about the word relationship management, it means we must need to realize the difference between effective manager and efficient manager or successful manager. The main difference is that the effective manager, they would like to emphasize most of their week time in order to implement the thing, in order to things get done. In contrast, when we talk about the successful manager or successful leader, they have established a good relationship, and whenever something goes wrong in the organization is facing something terrible due to pandemic or due to any unforeseen circumstances, maybe due to some political instability in the country or region. so on and so forth. There might be a list of different reasons we might attribute to these negative organizational consequences. The main idea is that you need to be very much self-aware what is going on in your scenarios. You need to open your eyes. You need to be very much receptive a number of times I emphasized on. And not only you need to self-manage yourself, but you also need to be very much cognizant about the social circumstances. Why is that so? Why this is important? This is extremely important because nowadays we are observing that people are working in one department and they are having different social background, different academic background, different professional background, which may include different experiences as well as different exposures. For example, you might have, you can say, less experience than me, but you have a very good exposure of working in multinational, maybe in technologically advanced nations as compared to me. So it means you might have a less experience than me, but you have a good exposure as compared to me. So you need to understand which type of people you are surrounded with and which type of people you are working along. And again, very important, we also emphasized in the previous first video, that was the leader-member exchange theory, which is relationship-based management. So if you are cognizant about the situation, if you believe that you can say people are in a position to understand your ideas, so this is equally important for you to share your ideas willfully and also communicate different ideas with the sole objective to implement most of the thing for the organization context. So dear students, in today's session, in this video, we talked about multiple very, very useful task-related personality traits of leaders, which includes courage, passion, flexibility and adaptability, not being rigid. Don't be so very fast. You need to identify what is good for the organization, what is good for the business unit or the strategic business unit, and you need to get it aligned with the available resources. In case if your resources are not enough, you may need to identify different resources or different sources of these resources, or different sources of these resources so that you can excel on it. And for this, emotional intelligence, especially the last point, that relationship management is really much close to it. How? If you have maintained a good relationship with outside world or a number of other organizational members or some other managers of different competitors, definitely you are going to get it aligned, your resources with them, or you may have some strategic alliances with them. Maybe short-term content, maybe long-term content, or you may have some other consortium in a later case of time. And similarly on our list is courage and proactive personality. So dear students and respected viewers, I hope we learned something in today's session, and that's it for today. And inshallah ta'ala, in the next video, we are going to be here with some new topics in terms of leadership. So for now, thank you very much. I wish you all the best, and I wish you love, light, and a happy career. Thank you very much. Good day.